There is no doubt that the atrocities committed against the black human are unique, and even those who call themselves Jewish, they suggest that they have been historically oppressed, but they've not been oppressed at the scale that blacks have been oppressed. The black people have been enslaved by both the Arab and the white. And I think that perhaps the blacks should consider Hammurabi's code. Maybe that might put a stop to some of this, which is to say an eye for an eye. The Arab Muslims, and it's important to put those two things together. You cannot have Islam without having Arab culture. The Arab Muslims enslaved black people for 1,300 years, 20 million black people. They would take 8-year-old black boys and castrate them, which is to say, to cut off the phallus and the scrotum in crude surgeries where there was no anesthesia provided for the child. And this black boy, who was obviously held captive, kidnapped, and taken from his parents, would have an iron spike put into the urethra inside the hole where his genitalia formerly was. He would then be dehydrated to a level that is obviously unhealthy and injurious and painful, and he'd be packed up to his chest in dry sand to prevent him bleeding, actually to put pressure against the wound. And these eunuchs were in highest demand. Obviously, the lack of testosterone and the interruption of natural biological processes that were stopped with the removal of the testes would cause for a high-pitched voice, would cause lack of facial hair, would cause the human being, the male, not to develop into a man biologically. The no width to the skeletal structure. And they did this for 1,300 years. This is an extraordinary thing that has not been called a genocide, but it is such. A genocide targets a particular group. That is what was happening. And not only did they target the black people in this way, they also stopped them from procreating. You see, in procreation, when you stop someone from procreating, this is a very serious level of hatred and evil. This is to suggest that you don't think these people are worthy of existing on earth. And that was clearly the effort of the Arab Muslims. And what's more is we consistently see that the excuses that they provide are not sensible, but what it reveals is that they do not view the blacks as human beings or as worthy of life, and they have no empathy for black human beings. There was a fellow yesterday, I kid you not, he said that it wasn't that bad because 20 million victims spread over 1,300 years is not that much, and it wasn't so bad. And so I would suggest that we would castrate him and then see how he feels about it. And particularly, we should do it in the way that the Arabs did it to the black boys. Or maybe we do it to his son, his child, and see how he feels about it then. What I teach you black people in the black code are many lessons that allow you to understand your enemy and allow you to understand what you must do. It looks like someone in the Twitter space has their hand up. Their name is Questioner. They have no photo and no name. So we can we can anticipate what kind of character this will be. But I yield the floor for you to speak up.
Thanks, man. Thank you for giving me the mic. I just want to let you guys know that, I've just come back from a house party and I'm incredibly drunk. I've had a lot to lot to drink, so perhaps you can excuse me. But I agree with this premise, this title of the space that Islam is not for black people. I completely agree with this. My question to you is, what is the alternative?
The alternative is the Black Code, which is a complete explanation of what it is to be black, a far reaching analysis of the way black peoples have been treated by the other racial categories. And it is a guide for what black people must do on an individual and collective basis. That is what is for black people. I would ask you, are you black?
I'm not black, but I love black people. I'm not gonna lie. I live in the UK, right? I
Yeah.
live in London. I've grown up around black people, and I don't know why, but for some reason, for some weird reason, nobody has told me to do this or anybody else, but I have associated myself and I have gotten along way more well with black people than with brown people or white people for some weird reason. I don't know.
Understood. Well, I appreciate you coming on to share your perspective, and I would encourage you to, we have a three sentence Bible, three sentence Quran, a three sentence Torah, and we say, be yourself, be good to yourself, and be good to good people. And my hope for you in being good to yourself is that you could rid yourself of alcoholism, because unfortunately, these kinds of things tear us down, and you deserve the best for yourself.
I mean, yeah, 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 don't worry. I understand. I do understand it's a complete evil. This is it holds you back. It holds back the human. And the only reason that I did this tonight is because we had a game. I live in the UK and it was England versus Argentina. So, we went to a house party and, with my friends and um so sorry.
Did you guys defeat Argentina?
No man, we lost. I mean not we, but England lost. These
No,
colonizers got absolutely brutalized by the Argentinas and this was amazing. I celebrated. This is a happy day for me. This is a very, very happy day for me.
well,
So
the
thank you.
Argentines, unfortunately, are extraordinarily racist, and they themselves would like to be colonizers. So, this is a situation wherein one doesn't know who to root for. But all the same, I appreciate you sharing your perspective in a respectful way and setting the tone that in this conversation we will have no cursing and no vulgarity. So I thank you for that.
Absolutely. But what my question to you guys is, look, Islam is an absolutely evil colonizing race, just like the Brits were, right? In Africa. Africa is a very wealthy nation. It's got um, absolute wealth. The most wealthy nation in the world, in fact. The most wealthy nation in the world. So when you have ideologies coming in and absolutely trying to exploit it, and just like Islam tried to exploit it, tried to, but it failed. It only got the north of Africa. So what is the alternative in your opinion, do you think? Because you have the FBAs in America, doing their thing. You have the Africans doing their thing. What is this? Where are we going to get the unity? Because I like, you might think, oh yeah, this motherfucker's drunk, but I generally want Africans, black people, people with black skin to unite, and work with us.
Give me 1 second. Question there. Mike, did you have something to say?
Yes, sir. Peace to the saints.
Peace of the Saints.
Um, yes, sir. I could respond to him specifically with um, I believe that trying to have this unity and everyone come together in this utopia, um, we if we look at the pattern, um, people tend to mess that up. I don't know if we'll get there, but specifically, I wanted to touch basis more on me being from Baltimore, right? And there's a lot of Muslim guys, right? And even in Philly. And I kind of wanted to inquire or see what you feel about. Do you think that how do you think that has come to be? Like, do you think that these Muslims, because I do believe that they know what their history is of Islam and the Arabs. And so do you think that they there's an agenda to kind of reach out and get as many people as they can, or to try to indoctrinate us further? What are your thoughts on that?
Peace of the saints. That's a beautiful question. So I'll try to answer both what you said and what the gentleman earlier said at once. So, number one, the fellow before was speaking of Africa as a nation. Africa is a continent with 54 separate nations and many language groups, different ethnic groups, and sub-racial categories. So there's huge levels of diversity, which is pretty much what provides for its weakness. And when you unify a group, there is pain in unification initially. And that's why we say Sasson or nothing. That's why we say you're on code, or you got to lay down, because we have to force together unity on one ideology and in one direction. And it is only the foolish black who suggests that, oh, can't we all get along? No, we cannot all get along. The moral cannot coexist with the immoral. The promiscuous woman the promiscuous woman down here cannot be in the same society as the upright woman. They will create poison. The effeminate, weak male, the skittle guzzler, this person cannot exist in the same community with the upright man. They must be done away with, for they spread corruption among the youth. And that is precisely why we created the Black Code as one system of values, one ideology, one strategy for one people, one nation. And we must make all competitors to that, make them fall. That's number one. Number two, Islam, like Christianity, is a supremacist ideology. Christianity is a white supremacist ideology. Islam is an Arab supremacist ideology. And inasmuch as that is the case, those who benefit most from Islam, the Arabs, want to spread it. And when they spread Islam, it is called dawah. And their effort to do this is very obvious. For example, if you look at Saudi Arabia, they invest in masjids and schools, Islamic schools abroad. Africa has been a major destination. There have been many places. For example, you may have heard that, and sometimes some of this stuff is propaganda, but you may have heard that they offered to invest in masjids and Islamic schools in Burkina Faso. And a smart leader would respond and say, well, we don't need masjids. We don't need your Islamic schools. We need hospitals. We need engineering schools. We need schools that will teach skills for gainful employment, teach technology. But instead, they'd like to export their religious ideas because it spreads the power and it increases the wealth of the Arabs of Saudi Arabia. Marquett, break that down for me. You look at the history of Islam. In one, we have to acknowledge that despite what the Muslims say, the truth is that Islam has borrowed from many previous religions, Christianity, Judaism, and it is borrowed from ancient things in the African continent. And when you look at what existed, the pagan Arabs in Arabia, you look at the Quraysh even, who are spoken about in Islamic history, they had so many gods, and they had a Kaaba before Islam, and one of their many gods was called Allah. So the idea that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a new creation is a lie. It's an adaptation. Listen, it's not a new creation. It's an adaptation of the previous religions, pagan, polytheistic religions of the ignorant Arabs. Why? Because it's easier to get people to follow something when you base it on the foundation that they already have. What you cannot do is completely eradicate their pre-existing value set. That's radical, and that will be difficult and painful and offensive to a people. So inasmuch as that is the case, they said, okay, well, we'll take some of what you already have. The same thing has happened in Christianity. Marquette, what do you mean? That's why Christians have peculiar holidays that make no sense with your concept of Jesus and your fake Trinity idea. Please tell me more, Marquett Devon Burton. Oh, I'd be happy to. You look at a strange holiday like Easter, a bunny rabbit? That's weird. And then it lays eggs? That's unnatural, contrary to biology, science. And what does that have to do with the birth of Jesus? Well, nothing at all. Or what does it have to do with anything related to Christianity? Same thing with Christmas. Fat white guy flying around the planet Earth with a sled pulled by reindeers. This comes from the paganism of the European. Yes? The strange beliefs which they melded into Christianity to get the pagan Europeans to follow Christianity. And why Christianity? Because it allowed emperors and men of power to concentrate power in themselves and in their likeness. This is the same thing with the Arabs. They concentrate power in themselves and in their likeness, in their culture. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was an Arab. Yes? The Quran was revealed in Arabic, and now they try to lie and make it seem like Arabic is this special language. You can only understand divinity through the Arabic language connected to the Arab. Huh? Come on now. And by the way, as we go through, if you want to support the work, you can use Venmo at MarquettDavon, or you can send in your questions at marquettb@gmail.com. That's marquettb@gmail.com using PayPal. We also have Cash App, MarQuettism, because we are talking pure facts and ism today, ladies and saints. But anyways, I say all that to say this. These religions are man-made. They are false. They do have some wisdom. They also have some excess. And the excess causes the most suffering among the black peoples of the earth because these religions are not made by you or for you. Christianity, as most of you understand it, was cooked up in the European laboratory for white supremacist purposes. Islam was cooked up in the Arab laboratory for the purposes of supporting Arabs. Marquett, elaborate on there. You can always see money behind the scene. Like Wu-Tang told you, cash rules everything around me. The Kaaba is a major driving force of commerce in Saudi Arabia. Why in the hell else would anyone want to go to a damn hot-ass desert? Nobody wants to go to a hot-ass desert for funsies, but you go there because you're told you must go on pilgrimage. And why must you go on pilgrimage? So that you could continue the trade and the commerce going on in that region. You can give them the tourist dollar so that they can make money off of you. Your religion is big business. It's an entire industry that will not fall because it has religious adherents. Yes? So understand, ladies and saints, that this was all designed so that the Arabs could center themselves and ensure revenue from all time to come. And here's the comedy. The idea of the Kaaba being a pilgrimage site did not come into existence with Islam. That predates Islam. Just as Allah predated Islam, the Kaaba predated Islam, and much else. Even many of the stories in the Quran. And we know that Marquett Devon Burton has read the Quran and knows the Quran well, because I did an entire series of videos on the Quran. I also did an entire series of videos on the Bible. Yes? And the Quran is a short work. Many of you should read it. It is at times beautiful and at other times quite boring and unengaging. But I'd say it's a better work than the Bible, which makes sense because it's newer than the Bible. It's just like software. When you get the software update, it's usually better than the previous one. And that's what religion is. Man-made systems of ideology to control you, to drive certain behaviors, to create certain idols or certain gods. Christianity has positioned the white man as God. That's why your Jesus looks like Mel Gibson. Yes? So I say all that to say this. The Arabs are incentivized to push their religion. That's why they kidnapped Malcolm X. That's why Malcolm X became a representative of their religion. They were so happy to take him away from the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And black people are so easily tricked. And that is why I am here. Yes? To be a shield. Yes, the black people, they suffer for their nature. They've not learned the history. They've not learned from the centuries of miseries. That's why I'm here with an iron fist. And I'll apply that iron fist to the Arabs, to the Neanderthals and to the black people as well who stand against this direction that we must go in. Now, you ask, why do the blacks in Philly and Baltimore end up with Islam? Number one, the Nation of Islam, they got Malcolm X, or rather they lifted him from his spiritual death he was suffering. They rose him up out of being a zombie, and they brought him into the knowledge of himself while he was in prison. They have great programs for people within prisons to teach them knowledge of self. Malcolm X became a traitor, and he went to Arab Sunni Islam. And then the Arabs took him and utilized his likeness and his image and his story and created that narrative to drive more blacks into Islam. Also, Islam was an alternative to the white supremacist Christianity that had the foundational black American under enslavement. So it was an alternative. It was a means of rebellion. It was what Malcolm X was a part of. And it was already embedded in the prison system. And more important, and we know that black people disproportionately get policed, disproportionately get convicted, and spend more time in jail than their white counterpart for the same crime. And there's data on that. And we can speak to it. If you want to read a good book on it, you can go to amazon.com/shop, SHOP/The Saint and the Sinner, spelled out, THESAINTAND. Hell, you guys know what it is. Apparently, I need some more sleep. But let's get this work. So anyways, the blacks in the prisons are persuaded because Islam, as I said, has been being taught in prison since the Nation of Islam. It has the celebrity superhero of Malcolm X. And thirdly, it has a garb, a costume. And so for a criminal who's supposed to be reformed, you get to show a costume to represent your change. This is also why a lot of slurs opt for Islam, because it comes with a hijab. You can show that you've changed. Visually, you can fool people. You can put on a cloak. Yes. And for those who are in the prison system, let it be known that this is our warrior class. These are men who should be under me, under a general. These are our warriors who are misguided. They have the nature of a warrior. They are rebels without a cause. That is why we have brought the black code. In the black code, it even tells you, if you must crash out, this is how you do it. If you must crash out, this should be the target. If you must crash out, not against your own. This is our warrior class in prison. Misguided, rebels without a cause. Soldiers like, need, and seek discipline. Yes? Islam is a religion that holds much discipline in the deen of Islam. Pray 5 times a day. Fast for an entire month during the holy month of Ramadan. Follow all of these dictates and mandates. This is what the soul of the soldier yearns for. And so Islam provides that in a very neat, reasonably clear way, and it is far more prescriptive than Christianity. And so it is attractive to the black man, and then he comes home from prison and teaches it to the black woman and the black child. And thereby we have the machinery of Arab supremacy doing its work. Why? Because we lack black philosophers and black philosophy. Yes? And that is where I come into play. Someone wrote the black code or the black box. You see, the black box is my autobiography, which is a bestseller in 2 categories. You can get the black box on Amazon. Just type in the black box, Marquett, Devon, Burton. It's a fine work. It's 5 stars. It's a masterwork. That is different than the black code, which is a far-reaching course of study, a living document, which you can find at skool.com/marquett/classroom. It's a course of study. The black code is a code for all of the melanated peoples of the earth. So it is different. And I'm hoping you guys are tracking that I've executed on a master plan. You think it's coincidental that my first book, written half a decade ago, was called The Black Box, and then I come out with The Black Code? You should assess that there's some planning going on. unraveling a master plan, the likes of which the world has never seen. Anyways, for those of you on Twitter, I thank you for your question. Mike, Amina, I yield the floor to you.
Ladies first.
Hi, thank you for letting me up. I initially wanted to speak about Malcolm X, but you got there before me. In your opinion, though, who has had the greatest positive influence on Black Americans? Because I would submit that it was Malcolm X, who subsequently, yes,
Subsequently, yes.
subsequently embraced Islam, but you used the word kidnapped. Why would you use that word as if he was used and exploited by Muslims? And I'm curious to know if the audience have even read Malcolm X's book.
There is so much to unpack here, but I would first ask you, you stated that Malcolm X is the most influential person among the blacks. I can tell from your tonation that you are in fact not black, which is fine. So you would be suggesting that from the perspective of an outsider. Further, it sounds like you're perhaps not born and raised in the United States of America, and Malcolm X is a foundational Black American. So, well, actually, I think one of his parents was Caribbean, but he was raised and is a figure of the foundational Black American struggle. So you'd be saying this from the outside. So from your perspective from the outside, what has his influence been on the Black peoples of America, his positive influence?
Well, he inspired other Black people to believe in their own dignity and potential. And he taught, I think, that he instilled dignity and self-respect amongst people who I believe that, God, were sort of lost and didn't have an identity in America. And he encouraged education and employing one's own critical thinking. He didn't make it a Black issue. It was a humanity issue for him. And like I said, he embraced Islam. So why do you position it in a way
I
where he
position
was
it because it is the
used by...
truth. He was certainly used. And let us start from the very beginning. I find it very saddening that people come forward with this kind of dishonest perspective. And I understand that at some level it's a psychosis. It may not even be conscious. Number one, when you speak of Malcolm X and any ideas that he shared with the Black peoples, those ideas did not ever come from his own mind. Do you know who created Malcolm X? Do you know that?
I thought that it came from, like, the principles that he later exercised came from Islam.
Came from Islam.
And
that's incorrect. So you don't know who educated Malcolm X?
I know earlier on it was Muhammad Elijah, but then he
Elijah
embraced
Muhammad.
Islam, went to
Yes.
Hajj.
So let me ask you
Yeah.
this. If your Islam is so powerful, then why is it that he was taught by a Black man who claimed himself to be a prophet of God? In fact, the final prophet, not your Muhammad. So if your Muhammad and your Islam was so powerful, why did Malcolm X and everything he knew, in fact, even his name and all the recognition he had and the fact that Black people even knew of him, why did all that come from a Black man who was born Elijah Poole and renamed himself to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad? Why didn't this come directly from your religion?
Sounds like Elijah Muhammad was actually using Islam to promote his own agenda. In fact, I'm sure you've read
Are
Malcolm
you
X's
answering
book.
I
It
have
seemed
read it.
like...
I have read Malcolm X's
Mhm.
book, which also contains falsehood, and that's been written about. But what I'm asking you, if you'd be kind enough to answer the question, and remember, answer the question. My question is, why was everything that created Malcolm X from a Black man who had his own religion as opposed to your Islam? Why didn't it come from your Sunni Islam?
You're asking me about Elijah Muhammad?
No, I'm asking you about Malcolm X. What created Malcolm X was not Sunni Islam. What brought Malcolm X to the black public and the international audience was not Sunni Islam. What cleaned up Malcolm X from being a hustler, a drug addict, and a thief was not Sunni Islam. What made Malcolm X well spoken and put brilliant ideas in his mind and even better words on his tongue was not Sunni Islam. It was a black man that ran an organization called the Nation of Islam, which believed that the last and final prophet was the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he was the messenger. It was not your Sunni Islam. So what I'm asking you is, if your Sunni Islam is so important, why didn't it create Malcolm X?
Well, like you said, because of his brilliant and resolute mind, finally he embraced Islam. So it's not to say that Islam made him clever and well-spoken. He already grew into that and possessed those attributes, which led him to Islam.
Okay,
And
so you're having trouble answering my question, and that's not surprising. My question is, why didn't Islam do that for
Dude,
him?
why you're hung up on a low IQ, you're hung up on a low IQ mulli. Just move on, man. Please.
Anyways, young lady, so here's my point. Islam did not create Malcolm X. The reason that Malcolm
that
X...
wasn't my point.
I didn't say that was
That's
your
not the
point.
point I
I'm
was
telling you
making.
that is the point, though. I'm telling you that you glorify Malcolm X, but that man who is worthy of glory was created by his black father, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. What I'm telling you is that Malcolm X is property of the foundational black American culture, and you will not steal him as an Arab supremacist, a part of Islam. You will not steal him from us. And what I'm further telling you is that he went over to Sunni Islam because it was all that was left for him. Why? Because he became a traitor to his father and to his nation, and he was kicked out. He didn't leave the Nation of Islam. He was kicked out of the Nation of Islam. So if you understood that part, you would realize that he went to Sunni Islam as his next best choice. But his first choice was the Nation of Islam, and it's documented that he begged to be accepted back by his spiritual father. So he went to Sunni Islam when he had nothing else. And the Sunni Muslims and their leaders accepted him because they knew that they could make a tool out of him. And the reason that you want him to be a part of your Arab supremacist religion is because he will allow you to recruit. He will allow you to do more.
Is that what happened to, what's his name? What's that
Are you thinking
boxer's
Muhammad
name?
Ali?
Muhammad Ali, yes. So later on, he also accepted Islam. But okay, I want to get to this point. You mentioned that Arabs enslaved Black people. Now, I don't understand the logic here, because historical wrongdoings may it may like
Oh, fuck your
indict the
historical wrongdoings.
perpetrators.
Bro,
Muhammad,
stop
It
Muhammad
does not.
cursing. Stop
It,
cursing,
Muhammad,
bro.
dude,
Stop cursing,
Muhammad.
bro. Bro, stop cursing.
so I just don't think it automatically invalidates the principles that the religion professes.
Well, I think you don't care anything about Black people. I am certain that you care everything about your religion. You care everything about your abstractions. Well, how do we know? I said, what did Malcolm X do for Black people? All you could name were abstractions. He gave them identity. No, he didn't. He didn't even have identity himself. That's ludicrous. What did Malcolm X do for Black people? You couldn't name anything specific. You couldn't say that he reduced recidivism rates by 15%. You couldn't say that he taught Black people how to create their own food, as evidenced by 5 farms and 6 grocery stores. You couldn't give any specifics because 1, you're not well studied, and 2, you're not operating based on facts, but rather your emotions and your subconscious driving force to promote your Arab supremacist religion to Black people, to try to colonize our minds. That's what you're being driven by.
Correct.
Okay, so who is the most influential figure for Black
The most
Americans that had a positive impact?
powerful person for Black Americans is the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Marquett, why is that? You mentioned 2 very powerful Black men. You mentioned the Malcolm X, which was created by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Before the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad got his hands on Malcolm X was a degenerate. Malcolm X was a dangerous man that you should be scared to be around. He was a convict. He was a felon. He was a thief and a thug before the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad woke him up. Then you mentioned Muhammad Ali, whose name comes from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Before that, he was Cassius Clay, which is not a name for a black man. And neither is Muhammad Ali, except that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad made it the most famous name the world over. And both of those men submitted to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his teachings. So who is the most influential? It is the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Why do people not know his name? Because his name is suppressed. Why? Because he's a black philosopher and a black teacher. He has his own black ideas, and that means he is dangerous. And you do not want us to have ideas. You want us to use your ideas. You want us to use your Christianity. You want us to use your Islam. So when you come here and suggest that the student is greater than the teacher, it's utterly ludicrous. It doesn't even make any sense. And most importantly, when we talk about that which is practical, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad had mosques. How many mosques did Malcolm X open? You should count that up. Then not only that, he had programs that reduced recidivism, which is the rate of black men being reincarcerated. And it's documented. They had farms, which are documented. They opened up grocery stores, which is documented. He had how many books published, which are documented. Many of them teaching black people for the first time to get off of the slave diet, stop eating swine and foods that destroy you and cause gluttony among our women. And it's all documented. He had a program called the Fruit of Islam, which protected black men. It was a black paramilitary organization. So all of his works and deeds are evident, which is very different than Malcolm X, who at best can be said to be a speaker. But what did he speak? He spoke the ideas of his greatest teacher. So when you come here and suggest that Malcolm X has made a great contribution to black people, all you do is reveal A, that you are ignorant of history, and B, that anything you can disassociate with black people as the creator and reassociate with your false creator and your Arab supremacist religion, oh, you are so signed up for it. And you speak to this having not studied, but only having read the autobiography of Malcolm X, which was not written by Malcolm X. It was penned by Alex Haley, and it is in fact a product. And when you create products, you create them to sell. And that was a book that was made to sell, and it did succeed at that. But what it did not do is it did not wake up black people from their spiritual death, which is what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad has done. And he's been able to do that since the times of Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali.
Okay, thanks for answering. Also, I just wanted to mention, like I said before, the wrongdoing of Muslims before with enslavement.
You're very
It doesn't.
disingenuous. Come on now.
No,
We don't
I'm
want to hear it.
honestly,
We
no,
don't want to hear
genuinely.
it.
I just want to understand why you would
Excuses.
invalidate a whole religion based
Oh,
on people's
I'd be happy
crimes.
to. I'd be happy to tell you why I'm going to judge a religion for its adherents. You see, Islam
Sure, I
produces
would like to add
Muslims. Okay, go
okay,
ahead.
before you answer, okay, thank you. So the Prophet Muhammad, not Elijah Muhammad,
Yes.
one of his first people that converted to Islam was a black slave, Bilal, and he helped free him. So it's clearly not a Muslim
Oh, one
practice. It's
person.
something.
Oh, one person.
Well,
Cool.
the most important, but sure, but it was the Prophet, the last prophet, people, the ones that Muslims look up to. And
Okay,
one
so
of the
let me
first
answer your
things he
question,
did,
madam.
yeah.
You
Mhm.
see, you people are so disgusting. You are not humans. You're not humans. You have no heart. And in fact, the only true human is the black person. We are the ones that have the heart. We're the only ones who have the capacity for honesty. That doesn't mean that we're all honest, but we're the only ones who have the capacity for honesty because you show up here and you reveal your heartlessness. Imagine how despicable of a character you must be to say that 1,300 years of enslavement should be swept away. Imagine how much you lack empathy to suggest that 20 million people enslaved violently is something that we should excuse. Imagine how little you care for black children when you think it's okay that for centuries, madam, 13 centuries, you would take black boys and you would cut off
I
their
talk a lot
penis and their
about black
testicle.
children, by
No,
the way.
madam, you don't have to interrupt me, madam. You don't want to hear the truth of what your religion has done? You cut off a child's penis and a child's testicles, and you do that for 13 centuries, and most of them died, 90% death rate when they were doing that? You think that that is not a religion of barbarism? Your religion was spread by the sword. Have you ever heard of the Almoravids? They spread your religion through murder, and they would kill those who didn't convert. They would enslave those who didn't convert. In your Quran, it claims that there is no compulsion in religion, but we could look through your history and see that there is entirely compulsion in your religion. You know, convert to Islam or die. Convert to Islam or be enslaved. Convert to Islam or we chop off your genitals. You think that over 1,000 years of that behavior is excusable? You'd have to be a Looney Tune. And I certainly know that you don't identify with black people because you don't think about, well, what if it was my son? What if it was me that was forced to be a female slave concubine? Would you like to be my female slave concubine?
Please don't accuse me or call me names, okay?
No, I'm not
come here in
I've
good
not
faith.
called you a single name. I asked you, would you like to be my female slave concubine?
Earlier you said that I was despicable. And
It
there was
it
no
is
need for that because I
despicable.
speak
It
I
is
speak a lot
despicable
about
to
black
deny.
children
No,
in Sudan.
speaking means
And
nothing. Speaking means nothing. I want to know, what have you done and what have you sacrificed? And there's a high likelihood that you care nothing for black people if you would excuse over 1,000 years of
I haven't
genocidal
excused.
violence.
Have I excused? I don't justify that. I condemn it
Yeah,
personally.
and you should leave it at that. There's no but that comes after that. You say it was wrong. You don't
But it's not
condone
an
it.
Islamic practice. I agree with you. I don't
Wait,
justify
you
it.
said it's
But
not
It
an
was
that's not
Islamic
an
practiced by
Islamic.
practice?
Islam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
It
all
was
sinners.
practiced.
Okay, most Muslims are sinners. Islam has
Aha.
heavily been infiltrated.
No, ma'am.
Islam has
No,
become
ma'am.
So
almost
what good is the
unlivable.
religion? What good is the religion then?
It's not good for them, but the book itself,
It
like
doesn't seem good
Mark,
for anyone but the people that are profiting off of it, because it all comes down to money. That's the essential thing, and as well as um, putting people down, or what can I say, compartmentalizing people. It seems to generate the wealth for the people that are at the top, and it seems to diminish people that it deems not worthy. I wanted to mention uh, that there was an interesting idea that you brought to us earlier, Marquette, when you spoke of the racism that a lot of so-called Muslims receive from other Muslims, as well as going to these places where they practice masjid or what have you. And I thought about that, and I wonder how it's so easily ignored by, because the title of this is Islam is not for black people. So when we're talking about black people, I wonder how they're able to ignore the stories and the accounts of family members and friends that have indeed received discrimination in these places of quote unquote worship, as well as. So yeah, I'll just leave with that for right now.
That's a brilliant question. So, number one, religion requires that at some level you be a fool. It requires that you be a fool, right? Because if I were to tell you that I, Marquette Devon Burton, would perish today and rise again in 3 days, you'd say, well, that ain't quite right. What are you, a zombie? But if I call myself Jesus, then all of a sudden it makes sense. If I were to take your wife and tell you that she is pregnant, and that the child is not yours, you'd be kind of like, wait, hold on. Call Maury. But I said, no, this child is the child of God's. This is the son of God. We call him Jesus. You'd say that's ludicrous. If I were to tell you that a virgin is pregnant, you'd say that's not possible. Religion requires you to be a damn fool. And so anyone who is in religion necessarily has to be foolish at a level. Now, that doesn't mean that they are a fool. That means that they are required to be foolish, which is to say that the human being is irrational. Now, what we should make an effort to do is to mitigate the level of irrationality. So that's number one. Number two, it's one of those situations to where if you don't have a home, then you seek the best home that you can find, right? Well, Marquett, what do you mean? Well, the blacks ideologically do not have a home of their own. And in the absence of having a home of their own, they seek the best home that they can find. And so they find Islam. And what I mean by that is they don't have an ideology, a popular system of ideas, a popular religion with strong organization that can be a refuge for them. The Nation of Islam used to be that under the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. It has fallen apart. It's been co-opted, ironically, by the white man, namely Scientology. And I say this with all due respect for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, but it is not the powerhouse that it used to be. And so blacks, being a very spiritual people, being a people oriented on goodness and righteousness, they look for a spiritual home and they find Islam is the best that they can do. And so when they suffer under Islam, they make up excuses as to, why they're experiencing this or that. And the same thing as the young lady, they lie and tell the nonsensical story of, well, Islam is perfect, but the believers are imperfect. And let me explain how foolish this is. And this is why Marquettism is for the kids. Marquettism saves lives. This stupid claim, which is consistent with the Muslims, you can apply this to anything. Christianity is perfect, but Christians are imperfect. Communism is perfect, but communists are imperfect. You could even say devil worshiping is perfect, but the devil worshipers are imperfect. They're not doing it right. And so this perfection fallacy, no true Scotsman fallacy, is what they use to justify it. And human beings are fantastic liars. The problem is that we often first lie to ourselves, then we repeat that lie to others. And that is why we're here to spread this ism. Everyone's going to get on code, and we will use methodology as vicious as the white man used and as vicious as the Arab man used to get our black people in line and to put them into a strong fighting force so that we can protect ourselves just like the Israelis do. I yield the floor.
Yes, sir. I wanted to big you up in a way because I wanted to throw this idea out that steel sharpens steel, iron sharpens iron, and I believe that anybody that can listen to you and hear the way you're able to articulate things, I believe that if they are finding themselves being offended or disturbed, I would tell them to look towards themselves because maybe they might be in fact made of plastic or wood. But I wanted to touch on a guy that would be considered black, and that would be the guy Kevin Gates. I wanted to speak on the fact that he does seem to pull out the Muslim card, as well as, I mean, even the guy Lil Durk or whatever. These people, right? They claim to be Muslim, and of course, their excuses. We all fall short, things of that nature. But I find it funny that they claim this religion, but they don't take it seriously. Like they aren't devout, as an idea that I've heard from you before. But I wanted to tie into that as well, how the use of philosophy, right? It's not something that you commonly hear in the black community. And I quite like how you in fact are a philosopher because that's, like I said, not common, but it points to something specific. So yesterday I was talking with my lady friend, and she said something of the sort of she said something of the sort of forgiveness, right? And because I've been sharpened with these just listening to you talk, right, and have been able to be sharpened by it, I looked and I said, forgiveness. And I looked up the framework of it, and according to most to the data out there, forgiveness really comes from mostly the Bible. Like it's more like a Christian type of mechanism. And so, I began to look into it, and I guess from that, I just wanted to tie in with that, with philosophy, and even with, this guy, Kevin Gates. I believe that we are using, a lot of people use religion as an excuse to do better, but in fact, something like forgiveness or some practices that are in Islam is nothing more than a philosophy. But I believe that it's been somehow weaponized and incorporated into a religion. And I guess there could be some benefits to it. But we do need more people like you that is willing to, just do God's work. And I yield the floor.
I appreciate you. And I want everyone listening to understand that if the Black people are to be on code and to move forward on code, then it has to be as many of us as possible. And we all must enforce code. And so it is greater than Marquett Devon Burton, it's greater than you and I. It is the collective. It's about the we. And when we can understand, one, respect hierarchy, but two, understand the concept of we and the fact that none of us as individuals are bigger than the program, including me. And as a leader, you're a servant. You're a servant of the people. You're not above the people. You're actually underneath the people. And when we can instill this mentality in our men, and we can instill submission in our women, our families will be strong and we'll move forward. And I really appreciate you being here to support and sharing your wisdom with us. I want to yield the floor for one of the speakers that we have on. I see that Amina wants to come back. What's on your mind?
Hey, thanks again. So I just want to stress that to everyone that a faith should be judged by its doctrine, not by sinners who purport to be ambassadors of the religion. And like you said, Marquette, that in the book itself, in the Quran, it's a literal sin to impose anything on anyone. Yet we see in most of the Muslim world, they're hypocrites because they do impose things that are not even written in the Quran. And I would also like to say that what's your benchmark for perfection? Like when in history
I actually think that
has
you need
any
to answer
people
that. So what I would ask you about your religion, your Arab supremacist religion, is at what point do the actions of the followers become evidence about the effectiveness of the system itself? So let me clarify what I'm
Well,
asking you. At what point do the actions of Muslims become evidence of the effectiveness of Islam?
okay, you see, I would not use that logic because you're
Well,
relying
you
on the
wouldn't use
exact same
any logic.
logic
That's
as
the problem, is you don't use logic. You're
you're
using
being
faith.
disrespectful.
No,
No,
the
you're
truth
being
is not
disrespectful
disrespectful.
because
No,
if
you're
I
not using
may
logic. The
I
truth
may
is
I
not
answer?
disrespectful.
May I answer? Because if I applied your logic by people who, well, many people use this logic who brand the Black race as low IQ or inherently criminal
Ah,
based
there it
on
goes. And I
statistics.
appreciate you
No, no,
sharing
I
that.
wouldn't say that.
No,
I
you
know, no,
would
no,
say
no. I
that.
would
You
not
did
say.
just say that.
I'm
That's
using
okay,
your
miss.
logic.
You're not using
Like,
my
may I
logic because
finish?
you're comparing the Black
Okay.
race to a religion.
Yep.
Race is biological. Religion is something of choice. So you're comparing
But what
things that
you're
are
innately
incongruous.
doing,
Madam,
you're
one moment.
basing
You're comparing
statistics.
things that are incongruous. And so that's a problem.
Okay,
And the
it's
reason
the
that you
same.
would like to go to an insult of Black people because it's a subconscious drive. You subconsciously hate Black people. It's okay. You subconsciously think Black people are inferior, and that's why you don't respect our humanity. And so it's very
That's not
strange. No,
those.
that is the fact.
These
That's
are
the truth
coming
of
out
who
of
you
your
are.
mouth.
That's
These
the truth
words are
of who you
coming out of
are.
your mouth.
Yes,
That's
they
not
are
what I
coming out of
said.
my mouth, and that's not what
I'm
you've said, but that's the truth. We've observed your
okay.
behavior. We've observed the behavior of your religion, and we have a ton of evidence. We have
So
1,300
that's
years of
what
evidence.
you're
Your
saying.
religion is
May I
one
finish?
wherein cruelty is commonplace. Only in 1980 did the last Muslim country outlaw slavery. And so what you will not
Okay.
do is come here and
Mm-hmm.
start making your underhanded insults. It's okay if you believe
Oh my
Black people are
God.
inferior, and that is
I
fine. That
don't
is why
think
I say
that.
they are not yours. They are mine. I will
I
take care of these
I
Black
don't think
people
that.
that you do not like. Well, then what is the point of bringing up something that's false?
No,
If you think it's false
I
that
will
Black
tell you
people
that
have low IQ, why would you even bring it up? If not to
I'll
spread
tell you why.
propaganda? Why?
Okay, no, I don't think that I always defend when nationalists call Black people low IQ. So
What's the
I'm
relevance here?
trying to expose to you that they base it on the statistics, and you, like what you did with saying that
So what's your point?
so many historically.
What is your point,
You
madam?
keep cutting me off.
Let's say the
It's not her
statistics are
point.
You
let's say
keep
the
cutting me
Saying
off.
statistics are
it's not
true.
her point.
Hold on one
It's
second.
a guy
Okay.
right next to her.
Let's
So
say
we
that the
condemn.
statistics are true. Now what? Let's say the statistics are true
So
about Black people being low IQ. Now what? So what's your point?
I wouldn't. For me, that's I wouldn't use like I would condemn that as prejudice because it attributes the actions of some to the nature of all Black people, and that
No,
would be
actually,
unjust, right?
that would
But
be
you're
very just. And I'll tell you again, if you're using
Mhm.
statistics appeal to the mean. So if statistics actually do reveal that Black people are, when you say low IQ is an absolute term, you would mean lower IQ, which would mean a relative to whatever
I don't use that term.
No, you did
Mhm.
use it. That's fine though. So lower IQ would mean relative to, right? Relative to what group? Well, perhaps the whites, perhaps the Brits, perhaps, whomever you want to name. And the problem is that when you suggest that Black people are low IQ or lower IQ, you would have to say, well, what is the data that you're using? And I'm more than happy to have this conversation. White supremacists never show up for it because they know that they are intellectually inferior. I'm more than happy to go through the data because I respect data. And if the data did reveal that Blacks on average are lower IQ, then so be it. But that is actually not the data. Would you reference a study that confirms that? Are you referencing the study of Somalis who are malnourished? Because beyond that,
So,
there is no data on this.
well, there is data on crime, but I'm not here to accuse Black
Oh, well,
people.
tell
I'm
me
trying
about
to
your,
show
no,
you.
no,
I'm trying
tell
to
me.
show you.
Wow.
See,
The
Why
truth
is that
comes out.
wow? That's crazy.
madam,
You're not even
you are
allowing me to finish the
devil. You
point.
are a Neanderthal devil.
Disingenuous as hell.
You're a Neanderthal
That's
devil who hates
crazy.
Black people, and it's okay. You went to
It's
the old Black
insane. I'm
people.
just applying
Don't
your logic.
no. Stop
That's all
talking,
I've done,
madam.
and you've cut
You
me
went to
off.
the Black people have low IQ bit, and then I said, well, tell me about the studies. And just like the white supremacists, because you guys are all uneducated, you can't tell me about the studies. So then you say, oh, well, Black people have there's the criminal statistics. So
You
now
won't let me
you're
finish,
leaving
Marquett.
your initial racist claim because you couldn't substantiate it, and you're going to a different racist claim. And the comedy of what you're doing is
It's
you're
probably
spouting.
the easiest
Nah,
thing
don't
to
interrupt, madam.
corroborate.
Don't interrupt. The problem is that
Okay.
you're sitting here giving all the talking points of white supremacists, and it's perfectly predictable with what I said. I said you're an Arab supremacist. I said you hate Black people. You showed up and you said the same things that white supremacists say. Blacks have low IQ. Blacks are criminals. So why, if you're not a hateful person against Blacks,
I think
do you
that's
come with the same
unjust.
silence? You come with the same talking points as those who are hateful against Blacks, white supremacists. You're
I'm
spouting out
showing
the
you a
same things.
reflection of your logic
Hey,
is like the
Marquette,
nationalists.
You're
don't
I'm
you
showing me
find
showing you
it
it's a
interesting?
reflection.
one second.
Don't
No,
you?
one second. One
Yes,
second.
sir.
What you're showing me, madam, is that you have been defeated and you do the same thing that the whites do in their inferiority, which is to give personal attacks. You're giving ad
I was
hominem
actually
attacks on
holding a
Black
mirror
people.
to you.
No,
I was actually just holding
no,
up a
madam, I'm a
mirror. But why
multimillionaire
the
with
personal
advanced
attacks?
degrees from top 20 universities. You're not holding a mirror to me. Even if it were true
You
that
don't know what
Blacks
I'm
have,
holding.
madam,
You don't know what I'm
silence. You don't
holding.
have to interrupt. You're an unruly harlot. You do not make any sense because a mirror of statistics does not reflect an individual. So it just shows that you're dim-witted. If you
That's
speak to
my
the
point.
statistics, it doesn't
Exactly. It doesn't
represent me.
reflect an
It's just
individual.
silly. Correct.
God.
So what you're not understanding is I'm not talking about individual Muslims. I'm talking about what is common in Islam. What is common in the Islamic history is slavery, death, destruction, and conquest. That's what's common. I'm not talking about the random Muslim here and there who is someone who pays zakah and someone who is one who cares for orphans and travelers. I'm not talking about the rare Muslim. I'm talking about the ones who have created havoc for 1,300 years and continue to do so. I'm talking about the entire Ummah who ignores the atrocities going on in Gaza. I'm talking about the entire Ummah who ignores the tragedies that are funded by Arab Sunni Muslims in the Sudan against Black people. I'm talking about the constantly warring Muslims that you have in Yemen. I'm talking about the Muslims who are extraordinarily racist in Saudi Arabia and abuse the Ethiopian maids. I'm talking about the Muslims in the United Arab Emirates who abuse the Filipinos and the Indians and the Africans. I'm talking about your savagery sustained over time, madam. I'm not talking about an individual. I'm talking about what you guys typically are.
Right. And I'm telling you what racists say, and I'm not racist.
You are a
Black
racist.
people are typically are, and I'm not saying that, but you sound
Wait,
exactly
if you're
like
not a
them.
racist,
But
if you're not a racist, why are you telling me what racists say? Why do we care? If I'm not a racist and you're not a racist, if I'm not anti-black and you're not anti-black, why are you telling me anti-black talking points?
okay, I just
No, I'm asking you, why are you telling
you
me
keep
anti-black
cutting-
talking points if you're not
I have
anti-black and
something
I'm
in
not
my
anti-black?
mind.
No, answer that. If
I
I'm not
wanted to
anti-black
know-
and you're not anti-black, why are you telling me anti-black talking points?
because you're using the same points that they make.
I'm
Like,
not
it's
using
just-
any
it's
anti-black
complete
talking
logic.
points. I'm not using any anti-black talking points. So
The
again,
same logic,
if
love.
you're not anti-black and I'm not anti-black, why are you telling me anti-black talking points?
I'm not here to argue, but I wanted to
No,
ask you.
no, don't ask
when in
anything.
history-
Answer me this. If I'm not anti-black and you're not anti-black, why are you telling me anti-black talking points?
I've already answered, and
Okay,
I
what
don't
is
want
the
to
answer?
engage with
What's
back
the
and
answer?
forth.
What's the answer?
May I just continue?
What is
with
the
my
answer?
point?
No,
'Cause
ma'am, you may
you
not.
keep
What is
cutting
the
me off.
answer? Why are you telling me
then
anti-black talking
I'll
points?
respectfully, because you use their exact same logic.
I did
You
not
based
use
it on
anti-black talking
a
points.
group of
Why
people.
are you using
You're
anti-black
basing it
talking
on
points?
the historical crimes that Muslims have committed.
Oh,
And you're
okay.
saying
So
this is
tell
a
me this.
reflection of
Tell me
Islam.
this. What?
You're saying
no,
it's a
no. One
reflection
second.
of the book.
It is a reflection, clearly. And I'm asking you. Tell me where you have 1,300 years of black people being anything that racists claim they are. Give me an example. Let's play the game. I like that game. Let's play that game. I gave you
I'm not
1,300
here to play
years.
games. I'm
Yes,
not
you
here to
are.
play
Yes, you are.
games.
You're here as an anti-black racist, and you're already playing games. And let's play them. So I gave
Why
you
have you
1,000.
labeled me that?
I gave you 1,300 years
Why
of
have
your
you labeled
people.
me so many
Silence.
things already?
I gave
Like,
you
this is not true.
1,300 years of your people behaving as barbarians. Now, tell me, what's the example of 1,300 years of black people
You want to talk about
organizing
how black
violence?
people behave like barbarians
For
today? Because I could
1,300
just pull up a
years.
white nationalist
Tell me.
and they've
Tell
got the
me.
stats
Tell me.
memorized.
Tell me
You want me
1,300
to
years of
argue?
it. Just give me an example of 1,000 years of black people behaving as barbarians so that we can compare apples to apples. Give me 1,000 years.
Why do I need to give you like? Why
Because
can't I just
that's what
talk
you
about
came
the
here to
crimes
do.
today? Why can't we just stick to the
Aha.
crimes today?
So you want to talk about
Oh, you
crimes
don't want to do
today.
that. You don't want to deal with
Aha.
now. You want.
Aha.
Oh, you
Aha.
got me. Like,
So I
come
see.
on, be
So you have
real.
low IQ. You have
Okay.
low IQ, madam, because what you're failing to do is to give me a comparative basis. I started my conversation. I said, you Muslims have behaved like animals for 1,300 years. Well, actually, let's say 1,400
But we
years.
black people are behaving like
And
animals
what I'm
today.
asking
That's what
you,
you're saying.
and what I'm asking
because you haven't done it for
calm
1,000
down,
years.
calm down, calm down. What I'm asking you is if the blacks are as bad as your Muslims, give me the history of it. I have no problem discussing crime statistics. What I'm asking you is give me a track record that indicates that this must be genetic. Because what I'm telling you is that you Arabs and you Muslims, you guys are genetically evil. That's why it's been consistent over 1,300 years. So I'm asking you,
This
give
is
me the
racism.
comparison.
Look, you are being racist right now. I'm not like
Give me the
you.
comparison.
So-
You're an anti-black racist. You're here
I'm
talking
saying,
about
see,
you're claiming blacks in
you're
the
being
crime
racist.
statistics.
You're calling me racist.
This is the
and
chief.
that's just
This is
not
your
true.
chief tool. You guys are devils, and you try to project and claim that other people are what you are. What is your ethnicity,
You sound
madam?
like Elijah Muhammad. Are you part
You
of the
don't
Nation
even
of
know
Islam?
anything
'Cause you
about
sound like
Elijah Muhammad because you're not well read. I asked you who created Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X, and you said his name backward. So you're clearly ignorant, and I was kind enough to not call that out at that time. Now, madam,
That doesn't make
what
me
ethnicity
ignorant
are you?
because
You
I
are
mixed up
ignorant.
his name.
Ignorant
That
means
does
that you
not
do
make
not
me
know.
ignorant.
Ignorant means you do
Oh my
not
God,
know,
that's
and
so
you in fact did
stupid.
not know. So yes, you are ignorant. Now, what ethnicity are you?
I would have told you, but
What
you're
ethnicity
treating me
are
with the
you?
You're being
See,
disrespectful.
you're
I
a
can't
liar. All
continue
of
to
you
engage
Muslims
with
are
you.
liars. All of you Muslims are liars. You hate the truth. And that's why you come on here to conceal. You will not
I
say
just
what
wanted to
ethnicity you
know
are.
when
No,
in
don't come on
history
with
has
the, I
any
just wanted to
people
know. Just be
perfectly.
honest. You're a liar. If you were a real Muslim, you'd be honest. Doesn't your book teach honesty? So I'm asking you, what is your ethnicity? Why are you hiding?
You don't
Be
have
yourself.
manners.
Be yourself. Why are you
You
hiding?
simply don't have manners.
Be
I want to
yourself.
pose a
Be
question to you.
yourself.
Like,
Why are you hiding? What ethnicity are you?
I'm proudly Saudi Arabian. Very proud.
Aha. Saudi
Yeah.
Arabian. Let's talk about the Saudis then. I think that's
Okay,
interesting.
sure, but can
I
I
think that's
finish my
interesting.
point?
You're Saudi
Should we take
Arabian.
turns?
So this makes perfect sense because I said
Stop trying to
Islam.
corner
I
me.
said
Like,
Islam
let me
is a
finish.
Arab supremacist religion. So then the Arabs show up to promote their religion. This is perfect. Marquette, you're a genius. Extraordinary. And you know, you
No,
Saudis are
Marquette, you're
extraordinarily, you guys are
combative. You're
extraordinarily
combative.
racist. You guys are just so
You're
sadly racist.
extraordinarily combative.
So
May I
why don't
just
you live in
ask you,
Saudi
like, what's
Arabia?
the...
Why don't you live in Saudi Arabia and wear your niqab?
Can I finish my point? And I'll be
You've
happy
asked a
to
lot of
answer all of your
questions. You've asked a
questions.
lot of questions. I'm asking you, why don't you
Okay,
live in Saudi Arabia and wear your niqab?
this is the last question, and I'll engage with your questions. Is that
I'm
okay?
sorry, that's not okay. So I'm asking you, why don't you live in Saudi Arabia and wear your niqab?
Okay, halas, if you're going to, like, this is not a fair conversation, I'll resign respectfully. Thank you for having me.
Yes, go back to Saudi Arabia and put on your niqab, ma'am. I see that you're not wearing a hijab and you're not wearing a niqab in your photo because you actually reject your own culture. You are a lost person who wants to be white. You want to be a white supremacist, and that's why you brought on the white supremacist talking
Definitely
points.
don't want to be white.
You
The
definitely
last
do
race
want to
I'd
be
want to be is
white.
white.
You definitely
It's
want to
not
be
up to you,
white. You
Marquette.
definitely want to be white.
It's
Do you
not
live in
up to
Saudi
you.
Arabia?
Stop
Do you live
labeling me.
in
You
Saudi
don't know me.
Arabia? Do you live in Saudi Arabia?
I did.
Do
For a
you
while.
live in Saudi Arabia? Look at these Muslim liars. Do you live in Saudi Arabia? That's called present tense, madam. Do you live in
You're
Saudi
crazy.
Arabia? Do
You
you
can't
live in
have a
Saudi
normal
Arabia? Yes or
conversation.
no? Yes or no,
Why are you
madam?
trying to argue?
You see,
This
the
is
problem is
insane.
that you're a dishonest person. You want to be
You
white.
have
You don't live
barbaric
in Saudi Arabia.
conversations.
You come from a barbarous society. That's why you left, because you did not want to wear niqab in the desert. And I understand it's hot. It's hot in Saudi Arabia. Why would they have you wearing all black? Black attracts the heat, doesn't it? So they have you wearing black in a place that's very hot. So you moved over to the UK and you hate your culture. So instead of actually wearing the garb of your
Love my
culture, you
culture.
wear the garb of the
Wrong
white
about
man.
everything.
You wear the
I
garb
love
of the
my
white
culture.
woman. That's what you do. And it's a shame. So go be yourself, figure out who you are, and then you can come and have a conversation with me. But until you stop the white supremacy, I can't respect you, because you don't have to live in the UK. You could live in Saudi. Why don't you live in Saudi? Why don't you want to be yourself?
I could answer that.
Yeah,
but
answer.
you're
Why
not
don't you live in
speaking to me
Saudi?
respectfully, but you're incapable
Why don't you want to
of
be
having a
why don't you want to
respectful
live in Saudi?
conversation.
Why don't you want to live in
Why
Saudi?
are you arguing?
Why don't you want to live in Saudi,
Why are
miss?
you arguing?
Miss, why don't you want
Why
to
are
live
you
in Saudi?
always like, oh my
Miss,
goodness,
why don't you want
I
to live
want
in
a punching
Saudi?
bag.
Why don't you want to live in Saudi?
I can't take you seriously, Marquette. I have
Why
to
don't
go.
you want to live
No,
in
no, bye.
Saudi? Very good. And that's what we're going to do to these racists and these white supremacists. She's a Saudi woman who's so proud to be Saudi, but she lives in the United Kingdom. Stop it. Stop it. We all know those are lies. If you were proud to be Saudi, you'd live in Saudi Arabia. You hear me? You'd live in the country of your forefathers. You live in the country of your grandparents. That's where I live. I live in the country of my grandparents and my great-grandparents and my great-great-grandparents. I live in the country of my forefathers. I live in the country that created my ethnicity and my culture. Why doesn't she live in Saudi Arabia? And we all know the Saudis are deeply racist. And the Saudis will tell you that the Saudis are deeply racist when they're telling the truth, which is rare, which is kind of rare. Anyways, let me acknowledge some of the folks supporting the work. If you have a question, I'll bring you on shortly. Shout out to Luis. He writes, peace of the Saints tuition. You're Mike Tyson in his prime when it comes to this game. Looking forward to this live session. I appreciate you came in via Venmo before we even started. Shout out to Heels In, came in via Venmo supporting the work. I also acknowledge Xavier. He writes, good evening, Mr. Burton. Can we get a It's Taliban Time hoodie? Brody, we absolutely need it. You're totally right. How could I have not already created one? And by the way, shout out to the Taliban in a real way. And also acknowledge Jefferson writes, thank you for your time. Came in via Venmo. Now also acknowledge Ramon. He writes, X is not ready for this real work. Peace to the saints. And I want all of the black people to notice the reason I created the black code is because you guys are easily fooled. These people have fooled you. They hate you. Every last one of them, they hate you. You notice how this woman comes on, tries to act like she likes black people, acts like she's cool with black people. Then all of a sudden, you guys are criminals. You guys are low IQ. They hate us. And if you don't understand that, you need the black code. If you do understand that and you don't know what to do, you need the black code. I created it for you. They hate you, my boy. Oh, they hate you. It's so obvious. How do you go from being sympathetic to blacks to like, you guys commit all the crimes? Extraordinary. Shout out to Joshua, comes in by PayPal. He writes, thank you for being a beacon of light in this cold world. I have so much admiration for you. You are the greatest of the black men. I appreciate you. And I also acknowledge Mr. Thompson writes, support for the stream came in by PayPal. Shout out to Miles. He writes, peace to the saints. Thank you for telling the unfiltered truth, Mr. Burton. You are welcome. Shout out to Sean. He writes, peace to the saints. I understand all these points you're making, but what about all the prophecies of the Prophet Muhammad that have come true? How could an illiterate man know such things? You know, my grandmother was damn near illiterate too, dropped out of school in the 3rd, 4th grade. And this was very common for a lot of blacks. She was the daughter of a sharecropper. And I can never say that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was not a great man. We all know this to be true. We also, unlike, say, Jesus, we know factually that the Prophet Muhammad existed as a human being walking the earth. And there is no doubt that he provided a great service. The Quran, as I've said, is a book of knowledge, as is the Bible. They have knowledge. They also have parts that are boring and uninteresting and perhaps hard to interpret. But I would never question the greatness of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And that is why I always speak with respect when I speak his name. But what I will not do is tell black people that Islam is made for them. That is not the case. And the black peoples have been abused under that religion. And so I don't say any of that to denigrate the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. I don't say any of that to denigrate Islam broadly. I say that to rescue my people from a place that is dangerous for them. Shout out to Clay. He writes, I appreciate you, sir. Thank you. And I also find it fairly pathetic that when the Muslims attempt to defend Islam vis-a-vis black people, the best example they come up with, you know, a black slave named Bilal. Oh, goodness. We're talking about black slaves here. Black slaves. That's the best example. In your religion came in what, the 7th century? And the best example in damn near 1,400 years starts off with a black slave. That's pretty bad. That's pretty damn bad. Shout out to Mr. Chambliss. He writes, I came in an interaction with an Indonesian a month ago, and he said that, quote, we shouldn't have to interact with people like you in your own land if we don't want to, end quote. This goes against his surahs on fellowshipping with other people can't be trusted. Oh yeah, it's a fact. I mean, also, he comes back, he writes, I just discovered why the king of Jordan, Abdullah II, looks European. It is because his mother is Muna al-Hussein, formerly Tony Avril Gardner from Suffolk, England. The king is half English. Surprise, surprise, right? Shout out to Pawan. He writes, peace to the saints, supporting the work. Thank you. Also acknowledged Civilized Barbarian writes, this Arab female devil thought she could be deceptive to the big homie. She's clearly racist, and they all are. And I sniffed her out. And I want you guys to remember this. I want every one of you black people to remember this. In the Black Code, I have an entire lesson just on the N-word. On the N-word, what do you do when it's said? What's the most strategic response? How can you react effectively? How can you make sure that you don't react in the wrong way? I literally break it out step by step. Step by step. And I want you guys to understand this. They are all 2 seconds away from calling you the N-word, hard R. You see, she gets into a little bit of a discussion with me, doesn't like the way it's going, and next thing you know, blacks are low IQ, blacks are criminals. And here's the comedy. She says, Marquett, I'm holding up a mirror to you. Now imagine claiming that you're holding up a mirror to a black man, saying that blacks are low IQ and blacks are criminals, and I've graduated from multiple top 20 universities, have a significant net worth, and have no criminal record to speak of. Well, that's a strange mirror to hold up because it doesn't reflect me at all. It's quite silly. Now, what she doesn't realize is I'm a reasonable person. I'm an honest black man. And so if you want to go through the crime statistics, I'm more than willing to go through it. And one thing I don't do, which you hear a lot of black folks do, is they lie. I think that there are many things that need to be reformed in black culture. That's why I created the black code, and everyone will get on code. I agree. It needs to be reformed, and it mostly needs to be reformed to crush these devils such as her. Shout out to Jamal supporting the work, came in via PayPal. I appreciate you. May I also acknowledge Mr. Torres, writes, Peace of the Saints is a Mexican American. I can relate to some of the scenarios that occur in my culture as well. Would you recommend the black code as an individual like myself? I would. And in fact, I'd say the only tweak you'd have to do to make it useful to you as a Mexican American is the lesson on the N-word. Just switch out whatever the devils call you, right? They have plenty of negative terms for Mexicans. And I know because I grew up in Southern California. And here's another thing that you need to understand. The blacks at some level hate the blacks, right? They hate themselves. The same thing is true with the Mexicans. The same thing is true across Latin America. I'm in Latin America right now. I just got to another Latin American country. I just left Ecuador and I'm in yet another one. So I only speak on what I know well. And I speak to the melanated peoples of the earth. May I acknowledge via super chat, shout out to 1995 writes, I sent you an email. Okay, I'll take a look at it. Shout out to Wishman writes, this is good work, keep teaching. Sir, yes, sir. I also acknowledge Too Neat writes, off topic, but the guy yesterday claiming majority Somalis say they're Arab is lying. We know our history and we only share Islam. Heard you visited Djibouti. I'd love to show you around next time. Peace of saints. I'd appreciate that, man. And shout out to my Somalis, shout out to all of the good peoples of the earth, be they white, black, Latino, Asian, Arab, shout out to all the good peoples of the earth. I acknowledge Project Monger, very consistent. Mason writes, how able am I to converse with you, sir? How am I able to converse with you? If you'd like to hop on the live right now, you can go to x.com/Marquett Devon and you can join the space. I also acknowledge Mason. He writes on this live. That is, yes, got you. Roger that.
Hey, Saint.
Talk to
Hey,
me.
Saint, this is Project Monger, by the way. Just wanted to point that out there.
Okay. I appreciate that, man. You got to keep the names consistent, man. How else am I going to recognize you guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir.
Okay, let me acknowledge. Anyone else who wanted to hop in there who has yet to speak? I want to yield the floor. If you have yet to speak, go ahead and speak up now.
Mr. Burton.
Peace of the saints.
Max Kellerman. How are you, Mr. Burton?
I'm well. How are you, sir?
I am well. Thank you for asking. This is Jefferson. I sent you the super chat through Venmo. Thank you for your time. Mr. Burton, I have 3 questions for you regarding Islam not being for black people. Thank you earlier for the little bit of information or detail rather that you provided regarding the contents of the black code. So first, I'm going to try to keep this brief and not be long-winded.
Sure.
I found myself extremely disappointed when ever since you started mentioning how Islam is not for black people. And ever since following your content, like around 2021, sorry, when I would see thumbnails of you and women in hijabs and niqabs, it would just be so pleasing to me because I'm just like, you know what, you're always well kept, always suited up, and then you're next to a modest woman, so it looks good. And I'm not a practicing Muslim or a practicing Christian, but because I once thought Muslims were the most serious about their religion, I thought to myself, you know what, if I to ever get married or if I have to convert for any reason, and I'm a black man, by the way.
I can tell.
I would consider it because these women present themselves modestly.
Yes.
But so my 3 questions. So first, please correct this thinking if it's errant. So is it bad to assume that any woman that has been wearing a niqab for a long time is a modest woman and she's like not deceiving? Because the hijabis, I always look at them side-eyed because, you never know when they used to wear it like halfway and like full way. But the niqabis, I just assume that, they're not attention seekers and they are the serious Muslims. So is it errant to assume that if a woman is wearing a niqab, she's modest and follows the deen as she should.
That is unfortunately incorrect. I can tell you from first person stories, or excuse me, not first person, stories that were recounted to me from persons in the story. I was in UAE and I remember hearing two stories that I found to be quite shocking. One, a woman told me, she says, you know, a lot of these niqabis have designer underneath the niqab, which I thought was interesting because Islam is a religion that prizes modesty. I said, oh, why would you do that? Because, I mean, no one can see it. And she said, well, you know, once you get indoors, you know, you're going to take off the niqab and, you know, girls are girls at the end of the day. I was like, okay. She was like, yeah, but she was like, did you think that niqabis were different than just regular women? She was like, most women in Saudi are wearing niqab. You have a lot of women in UAE wearing niqab. So she's like, yeah, they're just women. She was like, you'd be shocked. I was like, oh yeah, pray tell. She says, yeah, there are women who have had men dress up in niqab and go into their homes under veil. And because there's such a separation of the genders, the father of the house or the man of the house doesn't address her or engage her or see her. And then once they get, you know, kind of locked off into the women's area, he takes off the niqab, does his thing, puts the niqab right back on, and walks out. And she was like, the niqab has been used for great deception and concealment of evil in the UAE and in Saudi. Then here's another thing. I was with a woman, a white chick actually, in Dubai years ago. And we were walking down the main street near the Jumeirah Beach residences. And we see some Emiratis. And the Emirati guys are easy to spot. They all wear the same outfit, which is a beautiful outfit. And these guys are like slapping each other's butts and like kind of like being like overly physically friendly, if you like. And I was looking at them with disgust, not even aware. It's just like in instinctive disgust. And when they saw me looking at them with disgust, they turned it up. They started getting even more fruity with it. And then we walked past them and I told the chick, I was like, yo, what's up with these guys? I was like they take it too far. She was like, oh, she was like, you know, a lot of these Emirati guys are down low. I was like, word? She was like, yeah. She said, you know, they are raised and it's so haram to interact with girls and they're separated for so long, they end up dealing with each other because theoretically you're not supposed to have intercourse until you get married. So if you're a male going through puberty, going through all these hormones, and they keep you separated from the female, but you're not separated from other males, and they allow you to have this level of closeness. She's like, yeah, a lot of these boys are fruitcakes, and many of them end up getting married, and they're still engaging in homosexual behavior even during marriage. She's like, it's a problem here. And this is a girl who actually works for Emirates Airlines, high up. And you know, sometimes when you're white in UAE and in the Middle East, they'll give you a job you're not qualified for, because they look at you if you're British or a white American as like somehow above. So this was a young white girl who was working really high up in the Emirates. She was making a significant six-figure income, and ironically wears Jordans and is like super litty, but makes good money in UAE. And she was saying that it's hard to date because a lot of these guys are weirdos. And I totally believe it. And also, and you walk around in certain Muslim countries, namely North Africa, you'll see it in UAE as well. You'll see Muslim males holding each other's hands. I kid you not. They're walking around. These are male friends. These are male cousins holding each other's hands. If you're in the chat and you come from one of these cultures, confirm that what I'm speaking is true, because a lot of people haven't traveled the world. They don't know that if you can go to Morocco, you can go to Egypt, you can go to Saudi, you can go to Somalia, and you can see males holding hands, like walking and holding hands. I don't even hold my old lady's hand like that, and they really do it. I yield the floor.
Thank you for that response, Mr. Burton. And the second question is, I'm not sure how seriously you might have practiced Islam, if ever. I do remember that you have stated a time in the YouTube video that you embarked on a spiritual exploration of sorts. And I know that you understand, well, yeah, you understand the Quran very well. So my question is, what came first, if what might have come first? Realizing that, like, when you were practicing Islam, or like maybe when you're trying to, I don't want to say what you might have done, but did you realize, did you ever feel like you didn't belong and realize that Islam wasn't for black people, but you still, continued to study it and tried to follow it? Um, or, yeah, it's escaping me.
So the first part,
Or did, yeah.
okay. So I'll just answer the first
Oh,
part. You can formulate the second part of your question as I'm speaking.
okay.
The
Oh, I remember.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So, what I was trying to ask is, did you decide to not follow Islam because Muslims aren't as serious as they should be, or did you realize that Islam wasn't for black people before that, and maybe which one was more of a reason for you to not
Brilliant
follow?
questions. So
Yeah.
the
Mm.
first thing is that one becomes disillusioned. You realize that the Ummah is not an Ummah, and it is never more clear than in observing what is happening in Sudan and what is happening in Gaza. And you realize that so much of the rhetoric is just rhetoric. And this is often the case when you don't have a proper leader, which is why I stress hierarchy and I stress having boundaries on who can participate and who cannot. So, for example, no one can call themselves a saint because they want to. First, you have to be a member. Then we have something called confirmed, which means that you are vetted by us. We sign off on you. And if you violate, we will excommunicate. There have been individuals who had a drinking problem on a consistent basis, and we said, you're not one of us. Continue to follow the ism. Try to lift yourself up. But we cannot say that you are one of us because your behavior is an embarrassment to us and to you. We encourage you to fix it, but you're no longer one of us. So we hold a high standard. In all of the religions, there is no standard. Anyone can say they're a Catholic, a Christian, and so on. There are some groups that do have some excommunication, like the Jehovah's Witness or the Mormons. That's number one. In regards to Islam, you find that first and foremost, what is written is of little meaning. For example, it states in the Quran that a man has the right to have a second wife. I promise you, you could search to the ends of the earth and find great trouble in finding a young Muslim woman who would happily participate in polygyny. They're not there. They want to live just like the Western white woman. They think and speak like the Western white woman. And even when you look at places like Iran and you look at the Shia Muslims, you'll notice a lot of them wear their hijab so that they expose the front of their hair. This is an effort of rebellion. This is showing you that the deen is not in them. They are complying with culture and with the religious police. This is something that you'll find many examples of. You can go to a particular masjid in a given city in America, and people will say, oh, that's the fill in the blank with an ethnic group. That's the Somali masjid. That's the Pakistani masjid. That's the Indian masjid. That's the Arab masjid. When in actual fact, there should be no such thing. And we find that human beings continue to divide themselves. And when we speak of the Ummah, or even the concept of jihad, which both of us, the jihad concept is spoken of in the Quran, and there are jihads that should be happening. The people in Palestine should not be victim of what they are suffering. And the Ummah has not come together because Muslims are selfish and they care about themselves. And they're also cowards. They don't truly believe. The most believing Muslims I've ever seen are the Shia Muslims who are in Iran, not the Persians, those who call themselves Persians and live in Calabasas, but the Shia Muslims who are in Iran, they really believe. Those ones I couldn't judge. I could only assess from the outside. But beyond that, you find extraordinary levels of hypocrisy. I can't tell you how many alcoholic Afghan Muslims I know from Canada. I couldn't tell you how many fat Muslims I know who claim that they fast during the holy month of Ramadan. How is it that you can fast for a whole month, but you can't manage your diet any other time? You're lying. So It is a book and a system that is beautifully written, but what I know for sure, when you do not have a great teacher and a disciplinarian to ensure that the standard is held, the standard will not hold. And so, as it exists today, it's a good book, but it is a false faith and it is not well practiced. And further, there are some things that are extraordinarily contradictory and peculiar. There are verses in the Quran that make no sense. There are verses in the Quran that people don't understand. And I mean, the scholars don't understand. The muftis don't understand. So, for example, they say there should be no idols, yet they circle a black box in the desert, right? Respectfully. The truth is that people like structure, they like clarity, and that is what the ism provides. That's what the black code provides. And the reason that we have provided this is because the modern world needs a modern explanation of how to exist upright in a world such as this. Well, Marquette, what do you mean? Well, how many centuries old is the Quran? What is the likelihood that the Quran can tell you if it is permissible that a woman has a FaceTime video call with a man? Is that permissible? Is that not permissible? There's so many things that require new morality. Technology has outstripped man's ability to be moral. And so the ism is a philosophy for today. And that is the big difference. So long story short, number one, it is a disappointment that Islam is not a real thing. It is a real book, but it is not a real practice. It is not widely practiced. It is rarely practiced. That's number one. The number two, I would challenge a lot of folks and say that a lot of black Muslims, they may know the history of Islam. They may be able to recount how many dates the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, would eat to break his fast, but they don't actually know the history of Islam. They might know about his struggles with the Quraysh and the Muslims retreating to Abyssinia and all these other great stories. They may even know a great deal of hadith, but what they do not know is the actual history of Islam, meaning looking at Islam as a phenomena, studying it as a phenomena, not as a religion. When you study it as a phenomenon, you ask, well, what came before it? What did it borrow from? And also, when you look at it not as a religion, you look at it objectively as an academician, and you say, oh, it's really interesting that the Quran has a lot of stories that the Bible has. And maybe the Christians use a bell to call people to prayer, and then they use the adhan in Islam. There's so many parallels that you find that it is something that was basically a more clever version than what predated it. And that's what human beings do. They update things. And for example, you may see things that I teach about that may be reminiscent of the Nation of Islam, may be reminiscent of Islam, Sunni Islam, may be reminiscent of other things. And that's because the ism takes the best of all of humankind, but it doesn't lie about that. Whereas in Islam, it suggests that it is the final message. It is the only book that is perfect, and the others are imperfect. They're corrupted. But if the Quran was not corrupted and it was truly perfect and of God, we'd see better outcomes from the Muslims. I yield the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Burton. And then one last thing, really quickly, I surmise that the answer to this might be in the Black Code. So if yes or no question, and if you feel like elaborating, please feel free to. But if you give a yes or no answer and it can be found in the Black Code, I'll just get that. So the last question is, if you have a well-established family of 3 wives and you're looking for a fourth, and the fourth is a niqabi or a hijabi who meets all requirements that you would like to include her in her family, and she's within a suitable age range, and she's really who she presents herself to be, but she doesn't fall under the category of Negroid, would you still accept her into your already established family?
That is in fact answered very clearly in the Black Code, and I think that you'll like the answer.
Perfect. All right. I'll just get that. Thank you so much, Mr. Burton.
You're welcome. I appreciate you coming in with very meaningful questions.
Yep. Thank you.
May I speak just to my experience with Islam? Growing up in a partially Christian Baptist family, and then on the other side of my family, on my father's side, they were a Nation of Islam Muslims. I don't know how my parents found each other, but they did. And my brother and I, we particularly, once we got to an age of knowing certain things, not just being bred in practice. We kind of went about our own journey, and we read Message to the Black Man, Farad Muhammad, Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad, and we grew up in that, and in that journey, and I speak to why you say Islam is not for Black people. We definitely ran into a lot of the contradictory language and treatment from the other, like the masjids that didn't go to the uh, Nation of Islam temples, and all the different separations, and and it's also partially racist and colorist in different ways. And what we discovered was just um, it was not particularly made for us. The disciplines of it, like you said, if you have a great teacher or a disciplinarian, it is good and it can bring a certain quality of life. And I think it's a lot of unity in the different subgroups of Islam. They are very united. They do very well insulate their community, but within their community, one of the things that Islam, from brother to brother, you don't speak of the flaws of your brother. You kind of cover his flaws and not gossip or spread rumors, which is not very practiced very well, because they definitely spread rumors about each other and kind of like, oh, one's better than the other. His family's better because they have more of this, or this person's family is better because they have more of that. Or look at his children, look at her children, those type of things. There are, you know, very catty. It's a lot of cattiness that exists within the religion. And that was kind of me and my brother. We talk about it often to this day, and we still kind of, uh, go about our spiritual journeys and try to find something that is relative and works for us as Black men, especially young Black men out here, living successful entrepreneurial lives, trying to find the right women and, you know, deal with society as the way it stands in modern society, and not get caught up in all of you know, the bull. Um, but we do, and Marquette, you definitely bring a lot of light to a lot of different things, and we often speak about things that you post, and that we read from you. Islam is, just to be short, Islam has definitely presented a lot of challenges, good things in it, but it's definitely not perfect as it's presented, and then the communities are definitely flawed, and it's made to outcast the Black man, and in a lot of different ways.
Agree. And I appreciate you sharing that perspective. And Amina, by the way, for the young lady Amina, the Saudi woman, um, there's something I would like to tell her confidentially. So Amina, you can send me a DM on Instagram. There's something I want to share with you, not publicly. But shout out to my racist Saudis in attendance. Amina's our local racist Saudi. We appreciate you. Got to have you guys a part of this. Let me acknowledge some of the other folks supporting the work. We appreciate all of you guys who support this meaningful education. Shout out to Kensuke. And also acknowledge Gary. And also someone came in anonymously using the Stripe link in the description of the YouTube video. Also acknowledge Darian came in supporting. Shout out to Al Bathar as well. And someone came in on Bitcoin. I appreciate you. Looks like I see him in the live chat. Came in supporting on Bitcoin. That was Mike. We appreciate you. Shout out to all the folks who actually support meaningful and thought-provoking content. And I appreciate those of you who have used the super chat feature on YouTube as well. We've set a goal. I'm in a foreign currency that I just got to this country. I didn't even look at the exchange rate. So if the goal doesn't make sense, let me know so that we can modify it. First time trying it out, someone on my team said, hey, you should try this out. So we'll see how it goes. Anyways, anyone else who has not spoken yet, I want to yield the floor to you so that you may be heard.
Hello, Mr. Burton. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I actually just had a question to ask. Now, I'm not Muslim, but I am a Greek Orthodox Christian. And it's just a question I wanted to ask in terms of your belief system in general towards Christianity. So is your angst more so geared towards white supremacy and this weaponization of Christianity, or is it the tenets, or is it just a combination of both?
Good question. I appreciate that. First, let me say that was a baller alert for the gentleman Mike who came in on via Bitcoin. That was a baller alert. Shout out to Mike. He was the first baller alert today. So we got to acknowledge folks who come in at the $100 level. So the gentleman says that he's a Greek Orthodox Christian, and you're also purporting to be a black male. And I can hear it in your tonation that you are black. Would you confirm that?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes,
so you are black. Are you also Greek?
No, I am not.
Okay, so I just want to make sure you're saying you're a black man. Your religion is Greek Orthodox Christian.
Well, Orthodox Christianity, that's just the sect I go to. There's not an Ethiopian one around me, and I have to. I agree with the tenets, so I just have to make do with what's there.
And I think a lot of black people are making do, and I can't blame you when there's no other option. But we do have the black code. That's why I released it, so that there would be another option. And I want to caution you on this one. So I've traveled the world far more than most. There probably are just 4 or 5 individuals who've traveled the world more than I have. And one thing I've seen many times, I've many times seen black people following the religions of other racial and ethnic groups. One thing I've almost never seen Caucasians following the religion of black people. I've seen many times black people wearing the clothing of the Caucasians, Western clothes. I've almost never seen Caucasians wearing the clothing of black people, our traditional clothes. So let me tell you what I mean. If you have a white man living in Africa, does he start dressing like an African man?
Absolutely not.
Hell nah. He keeps on wearing his trousers, his khakis, and his polos. He does not assimilate.
Especially if he has money.
That's right. He does not try to become an African. He doesn't try to look like an African because he thinks he's superior and he has no respect. Conversely, if you find an African in the United States or in Britain or in France, he starts dressing like the white man, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
And let me take it one step further. This is where it gets embarrassing. If you have a white man, whether he's in China or he's in Nigeria or he's in America, if his name's Tom in America, his name's Tom in Nigeria, his name's Tom in China. Hey, call me Tom. Matter of fact, call me Chip. But curiously, if the Chinese man goes into America, all of a sudden he's like, oh, you'll call me Chris. What? Chris? You don't look like a Chris. So, and that's not to knock the Chinese.
No, not at all.
That's not to knock the Chinese. If the African goes into America and you say, hey, what's your name, buddy? He'll be like, oh, just call me Tanner. Call me Bobby. Bobby? You look like your name should be Kunjufu or something like that.
I went to school.
Yeah.
I went to school with men like that who would use Anglophone names rather than what their parents would give them.
100%. And so what I'm here to teach.
Hello, can you hear me, sir?
It's very difficult to hear you. You're fading out quite a bit. If you have access to Wi-Fi, I'd advise you get on it. But what I'm here to teach is this 3-sentence Bible, this 3-sentence Quran, this 3-sentence Torah. Number 1, be yourself. Number 2, be good to yourself. Number 3, be good to good people. So number 1, be yourself. If you're Vietnamese and your name is Ho Chi Minh, I'm happy to call you Ho Chi Minh. I don't need to call you Charles because you're not Charles. And in calling yourself Charles when your name is Ho Chi Minh, you disrespect your family, you disrespect your heritage, you disrespect the history that created you. You're not being yourself. And if your name is, Ohabunwa, that's your surname, I'm happy to say Ohabunwa. I respect what you are. But the problem is that so few people respect themselves. They don't respect what they are. And so I say that to say this. If we notice that the blacks will follow the religions of the other people. We'll follow their style of dress. We'll even give up our names willingly. The Foundational Black America didn't do that, but the other blacks did. They'll give up their name willingly. Ours was taken.
That's why I'm FBA.
Yeah, exactly. Ours was taken. It was stolen. It was robbed. Theirs, they just gave up voluntarily. And this is no disrespect to them. But you notice when you look at it oppositely, the white man doesn't give up his religion. He doesn't give up his style of dress. He doesn't give up his folkways, his culture, his mores. He doesn't give up his name. So I would encourage everyone. I wouldn't encourage you
to. If anything, he'll force it.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't encourage you to be the white man because you're not white. But I would say there's some things to learn, and he at least has self-respect. And we have to have self-respect. So that being said, can you really have self-respect practicing the religion of an alien group of people, a foreign group of people? Can you really have self-respect when your God is white? Or people say, well, Jesus is not white, he's Middle Eastern. Okay, fine. Can you really have self-respect when your Jesus is Middle Eastern and you're not? No, you cannot. Because if Jesus is the Son of God, then you are associating God with a racial group that is not your own. And for every other group, it's almost not so bad. But for the black man and woman, you look the most ridiculous. Why is that? Because you are actually the original man and woman on earth. You are Adam and Eve. You are the first. So if you're the first, if you existed long before the Bible, in fact, you existed before white people, before Arabs, before Asians, before the Middle East was a thing, before Middle Easterners. So if you existed before all that, what sense does it make for the parent to imitate the child? It shows a profound level of ignorance and foolishness. And so for that very reason, I steer black people away from it. And while steering us away, I don't mean to drag anyone's religion through the dirt or create enemies, but if that is a byproduct of the truth, I will deal with that.
I would like to chime in on just where you left off. Like I said, I've had many quite spiritual journeys, just reading different, um, you know, books in different contexts. Knowledge of self, like, right? That's something we read in Message of the Black Man or Message to the Black Man, and then also subscribing to Five Percenter knowledge as well, is the black man is God. And what I took from that is, if you find out who you are internally, yourself as a black man, as a person, and you will see all of the traits, even our skin alone, we have more DNA than other groups of people and everything like that. We are built differently, and we are persecuted for that by the others because they know that they can't do what we do and they can't exist how we exist throughout this earth in the many different planes. So, and then there's other things that if you tap into them metaphysically and build on those things within yourself as a black person, you can, it's almost like you have superpowers naturally. And they acknowledge it as well. As a child, I remember just people saying, oh, well, I grew up in a mixed environment. I went to a well-rounded school in Orlando, Florida. Black kids, white kids, Indians, Brazilians, all kinds of people. And they would always say, oh, well, you can do that because you're black. And I always say, like, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean? And as I got older, I know now what that means. You're literally deficient of things that I'm more efficient in, just biologically and otherwise. So how are we not, like, when people say white supremacy or white superiority, how are we not superior when we naturally have more and possess more abilities?
There you go. I want to yield the floor, and I appreciate that. That was a beautifully explained message. I want to yield the floor to someone who has not spoken up yet.
Hello.
Yes.
So my name is David. I'm from Canada. I'm Nigerian, and I just want to ask you a question. Is that possible?
Sure.
So I want to talk about the colorism in the black community. So if you look like in the Nation of Islam, if you look at the high ups or the leaders of the nation, the most dominantly
Dominant.
light skin,
Yeah.
yeah, dominant light skin and all that.
Yes.
And the lower mass are dark skin.
Yes.
And if you look at Nuri Muhammad,
Muhammad. Yes.
yeah, Nuri Muhammad, he always talk about who told you that the force here wasn't beautiful and all that. But if you look at the wife and the spouse, the
Go
hair
off.
texture, sorry,
Yes, go ahead. I'm listening to you.
but if you look at the spouse, the hair texture is it has the hair texture of the white woman,
Yes.
and that's and even with um Mr. Louis Farrakhan,
Mm-hmm.
his woman has 4C hair, right? She's a black woman with 4C hair,
Okay.
but I I tend to think that, and I know it's going to sound evil. It may sound evil what I'm about to say, but
Okay, go ahead.
if he was young, because I think that if he was rich during his younger days, he would have married the light skin, and he would have enforced the light skin superiority in the black group. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you feel what I'm saying?
You're referring to the minister Louis Farrakhan?
Yes,
So
yes,
let me address some of the things you said, and I appreciate you speaking on this. I've actually spoken on the same thing, which is to say that the hierarchy in the Nation of Islam is at some level color coded, and it is so consistent that it can't be an accident, right? Malcolm X was very
yes,
pale. The Master Farad Muhammad appears to damn near be a white or an Arab man. The minister Louis Farrakhan is also quite pale. Nuri Muhammad is very pale. And a lot of these brothers look like they got a slick back or a perm. I agree with you there. It's something of concern. But we also have to acknowledge that they did have the Dr. Khalid Muhammad, who is a bald black man, significantly darker than myself. So that is at some level of balance. But you're right. There's no doubt that there is colorism there. And across all of the communities of the earth, there is colorism because they're all victim of white supremacy, which puts white at the top and black at the bottom. You can find this in the Asian community. You can find this in the Latino community, and so on. What we do in the black code is we first define what it is to be black. What we forget, and I know that you're West African, there are different phenotypes and different expressions of blackness that are pure and authentic. We see the beautiful black, the true black, the perfect black of the South Sudanese, the true Nubians, tall and very dark. But that is not the only way of being a pure black person, right? You have the Habesha who are also pure black and they may have a different skin pigmentation, different features. We have various peoples that may be pure, like the Bushmen of South Africa, and also fair or have Asiatic or epicantic eye folds and different features. So the African continent has more genetic diversity than any other place. Genetic diversity is not a problem. Having hair that is not 4C is not a problem. What is a problem is when we enact white supremacy. So I agree with you there, and that's something that we have to be cautious of. Speculating on the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is a bit tough in as much as he is a very talented man. If you look into his background, he can play instruments at a concert level. He's obviously a masterful speaker and an excellent international leader. And he was respected for some time. And he was also a very good looking young man with a good mouthpiece on him. So I don't think that he would have been limited in his choice of women in his youth. I think that he chose what was right for him. And in this day, when you can find a woman that's on program, truly submissive, you are blessed. And I wouldn't care what color she comes in and what hair texture she has. But yes, colorism, white supremacy must be addressed. There's no doubt that the Nation of Islam has exercised colorism, but they've also picked people who have merit, and their time is respectfully over. The Nation of Islam, I have the utmost respect for their doctrine, but their time is over, and that is why the Black Code is here, and that is what we're building on. I thank you for your notes on that and your insight.
And I have a second question. Can I ask the second question?
Sure.
what do you think about, and it must be addressed, that there's certain movement about the mulatto separations, and some white supremacists might use that against the black people. You know, mulattoes. I was watching a live with Tariq Nasheed, and one white supremacist, he came in and he tried to separate the Tariq Nasheed was saying that because he is full black, and he his he was trying to say that um, that certain Barack Obama wasn't full black; he was mulatto, and and he was trying to make a distinction between black and mulatto. And Tariq keeps saying that, or the Barack Obama, he was treated like a black man, but I can tell that he was trying to make a distinction to try to separate us. What can Do you have a plan
Yes,
for
I do have
what?
notes on that already. The Black Code addresses this at the very beginning in the early lessons. So the first challenge is defining, well, what is black? I do believe I'm the first person that has, with great clarity, defined what is black. Uh, this has been done many times by white racists, white supremacists who put forward something that we've called scientific racism, largely based on anthropology and all of these measures. They've tried to define what is white and what is not. And I've defined what is black and what is not, which is important. And in addition to the observable biological measures that are based on phenotype, you also have to want to be black, right? So it's not only the physical reality, which is a prerequisite, secondarily, it is the self-identification. So you could self-identify as black, but you don't meet the physical identifiers, you're not black. Sorry. So you must both have the physical identifiers and self-identify as black. Then you might qualify to be on code based on your behavior. And we unite among our shared values and our exercise of those values. It's very important. Now, with regards to the white supremacists, the devils and what they say don't matter. The Neanderthals have always ran a campaign of deception and divide and conquer. This is one of their chief strategies in their playbook. They attempt to weaken us by reducing us in size. They know that a mulatto going to our side versus their side adds to our population and our fighting force. So, of course, they would want to pull them away from us. And in fact, I would challenge you that many fair-skinned folks are far more radical and steady in their blackness and their black identity, if you like, than dark-skinned black people. And it's because at a level, they have the psychological freedom to actually be able to think. Well, Marquette, what do you mean be able to think? Yes, both the white woman and the mulatto, they have the ability to think and to see the world more clearly. Marquette, this is the most bizarre thing you've ever said. What do you mean? Well, let's talk about the mulatto. Why are some of them, and I'm just using the term mulatto because you use the term mulatto. That's not what I call folks of mixed race. I just call them black. But the truth is, you'll say, take a Candace Owens, right? And I talk in the Black Code about this personality, how it was created. Candace Owens is a victim of white supremacy. She's had a particular reaction to white supremacy, and she's also a profiteer, which is fine. But if you're a black female and you have 4C hair and dark skin, then you have been raised in a society where you've been told that you are unattractive. To the female, most of them are sexual objects and mostly of their own making. And to be sexually desired is their highest aim. And to be a woman with a black woman's skin coloration and 4C hair, which is to say to not measure up well on a white standard of beauty, oh, well, that's something that's destructive to the self-esteem, you see. And so because of that, her great effort is to rid herself of her blackness, of her 4C hair, and of her dark skin. And so at a level, the white supremacy not only hurts her more, but it also is embedded in her more. So she is a greater practitioner of white supremacy to a level at which she tries to engage in self-negation of her blackness. And she tries to destroy her blackness by laying down with the white man and procreating with the white man. That's actually her goal. So Whereas you take a mulatto woman, or as you call it, or what I would call a fair-skinned black woman, you see, she was not tortured for being dark-skinned. She was not tortured for being chocolate. She was not made fun of, or, and I don't think they really are, to be honest with you, but she didn't look down upon herself. I think most of the issues, they're looking down upon themselves. It's not people making fun of them for having natural hair or kinky hair, 4C hair, or nappy hair. It's them looking down upon themselves. But in either case, the light-skinned black girl who has hair that is not 4C, she has never had her hair looked down upon. So she hasn't had to deal with the weight of white supremacy and colorism on the negative side. And because her psychology has not been crippled because of that, and she has not had to react emotionally from that over a lifetime, she can see clearly and be honest about the greater dynamics that are at work. And for that, when she experiences racism, she can identify it, she knows what it is, and she knows who it's coming from. She's not experiencing so much colorism. At some level, she's benefiting from white supremacy and colorism from the black community because they exalt her. And so she can be accurate in what's going on. And often we'll find that they're quite radicalized. And they're very pro-black. So it makes perfect sense. And in some cases, the fair-skinned black chicks, in being pro-black, or fair-skinned black males as well, and being very pro-black, it's like they regain and reclaim some of their blackness and reassert it. And I can't hate them for that. I quite respect it. So that is how colorism, racism, white supremacy, which, and none of those things are exclusive to white people, they're practiced by all of us. That is why we see some of these hierarchies come into existence, even within the Nation of Islam, where you see the fair-skinned blacks exalted.